Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at 10 games here in the NBA on Monday. Hope everybody had a successful Super Bowl betting Sunday. We have player props in this video where we went 4-0 on Thursday, the last time that we brought you these best bets and player props. We also have best bets up in a separate video, so do want you to subscribe to that page so you get both of these videos each and every day that we're bringing them to you here. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Nate and I are using this prop finder tool that we have here under the NBA tab to make sure that we're getting the best odds available to us from all of the books that are giving us bets this NBA season. Nate, might as well keep it going, kid, and keep the streak wicked hot. Get into your first NBA best bet here.
Yeah, I'll go Donovan Mitchell over 26.5 points. Pretty low considering, what he's capable of. And really, it's part of I smell the Sixers covering this 10.5 point spread. I don't really know why. Just a feeling that in this kind of playoff preview matchup, they'll find a way without Embiid to be competitive. And if they are, Donnie averages 7.5 points per game in the fourth quarter. That's 10th best in the league. And, he should be scoring down the stretch. He's definitely capable of getting over 27 points, even if the game is not competitive, which we've seen plenty recently during this Cavs hot streak. The Cavs are back home after playing 5 of their last 6 on the road. And in his last 6 home games, Donovan averages 35 points per game with a 35% usage rate. You'd say, oh, well, Darius Garland, his minutes are creeping up. He's up to 29 minutes a game now. Maybe that's going to hurt. Well, his last 7 with Garland back in there, 30 points per game, 32.5% usage, and his splits are even better because he has a table setter now. 55, 45 from the field, 91% at the line. That's a 130 offensive rating. The Sixers, without Embiid, their defense has certainly plummeted. Last 9, they have the second worst defensive rating in the league, allow the second most free throws, allow the 4th highest 3-point percentage, and the 8th most points to shooting guards. They did cover at Denver and at Utah without Embiid, thanks to that heroic performance from Maxey. Maybe I think Maxey is one of the rare exceptions to this Cleveland defense that they limit guys, but they can't necessarily limit Maxey, who's just so quick that maybe he can get around, find some corners, and maybe that's why I think the Sixers hang around here. But either way, love this number for Donovan Mitchell at pretty good odds, just -105 at MGM.
I was looking at this, and I actually considered adding the assists to Donnie Mitchell as well. The interesting thing about the 76ers without Embiid, they're giving up almost 4 more assists per game without JoJo down there, and that definitely comes in the form of delivering once you get into the lane, to just having a lot more options than if Joel Embiid just sort of swallows you up in the paint and his giant arms just envelop you and you can't go anywhere, do anything, or see anybody around you. And so I think that there's the likelihood that if he gets in there, look, if he gets into the paint, Donnie can really just do whatever he wants at that point. B-Ball Paul is not a rim protector. God bless him. Honestly, hasn't been as good of a rebounder as his nickname would indicate. But more importantly, there's going to be points to come by. If this stays close, then yeah, it's because Maxey and Tobias just basically kept them in it with shooting. To be honest with you, and getting to the lane, maybe Maxey gets a ton of free throws if he can. But I don't see a path for them to win outside of that. And in the meantime, Donnie Mitchell is going to have to do his thing. The only thing that would scare me would be a blowout. But I still think that the points will be there for a team that hasn't defended that area of the floor at all. So I'm going to go to a bet that I like to come back to consistently, which is when Brook Lopez is playing good center that he needs to play defense for and or stretch them out when he's on offense and pull them away from the basket. That's when you get big Brook Lopez minutes. And I kind of like the fact that he's coming off of not playing very many minutes or getting many points. So I'm going to take just the points for him over 11.5. I often like to add the rebounds because I do think he needs to play a little bit closer to the basket when he's on defense versus Joker. But even then, he hasn't gotten the boards versus this team very consistently over the last 3, only averaging about 2 boards per game versus the Nuggets when he's played them in his last 3. But other than that, the points are there for him. If you want to look at the situations for Brook Lopez, shout out StatMuse, by the way, because it's gotten really, really good at being able to just take these very specific requests for stats and finding them, because you can actually go on to StatMuse and find things if you type in the correct sort of parameters, like how do centers who make 2 3-pointers and play X amount of minutes against the Nuggets do, right? And so boom, type in centers this season who have X amount of points, with this many 3-pointers made. Brook Lopez and anybody who does that against this Nuggets team who plays 30 minutes, who hits 2 threes in a game, they've all beaten 11 and a half points, like 100% of the time. It's a pretty specific parameter, but that also includes like 11 different dudes this season that have done it, playing the center position, hitting threes, and also playing big minutes. And that's going to be the crucial part here for Brook. You look at how he's played, or how much he's played rather, when they play these two teams. And yeah, he's back to averaging above the 28 and a half, 30 minutes that he had when he's like involved in the game a lot more. If you look at his recent minute totals, the only 2 games that he has failed to go over the 11 and a half points were, well, just one of them actually. He went over against Minnesota even in just 25 and a half minutes in what wasn't much of a game because the Bucks didn't show up at home and lost by like 25 points to the Timberwolves. Even in those limited minutes, Brook Lopez was in there because it's the gigantic Milwaukee lineup, right? And that's going to be the same concept here for the gigantic Milwaukee lineup on top of the Minnesota one that they just played. So, yeah, I think that the fact that he's going to have a bit more open threes, other guys who have done that recently and hit some threes include like Vucevic not a few weeks ago, and another guy, even Wendell Carter Jr. when they played the Magic, hit the 2 threes. So yeah, this is the type of dude who, I mean, there's nobody better in the league, honestly, in terms of being able to pull him away from the basket, combined with at least be able to limit him somewhat down low and not just get completely eaten alive. That's Brook Lopez. So I see a solid 32 to 34 minutes in this game. If the Bucks, as I think they want to do, are going to be trying their absolute butts off to win a big game that could really help them mentally, especially turn their season around from the last 5 games or so.
Yeah, and he's close to even money to hit those 2 threes that you're saying. He's averaged and has taken a few more since the Bucks made the coaching change. He's been more in of his traditional role that we saw during the championship years, right? Getting more blocks, protecting the rim. But yeah, I see why you're going with the points and not the rebounds when he does just box out and let other guys clean up here. But yeah, 4 of his last 5 before the blowout against Charlotte, did he top this? So seems pretty consistent. So I'll go under 32 and a half points and rebounds for Jaren Jackson Jr. And, I was saying to myself, like, why don't just take the points, 26 and a half? Like, is he really going to go 27 and only have like 4 rebounds? Yes, that's exactly what he does. He's done that in 3 straight. And in fact, 9 of his last 10 has he gone under 32 and a half points of rebounds, despite getting over the points sometimes. Insane usage rate, 38%. That's led to 26 points per game in his last 6, but under 4 rebounds per game. So he's just not getting there. Also turning the ball over plenty against disciplined defenses, under the points against Cleveland and way under against Miami. Bam literally just embarrassed him. He was just sitting on the floor, just wondering what happened. And the Pelicans defense, while they don't have like necessarily a center stopper like Bam, I mean, they do have Herb Jones, who they can just guard up a position, right? Might start on Triple J, but either way, like good team defense, good guys off the bench, including Larry Nance, to keep throwing at him. And their team is just, they've turned around defensively. Like their last 6, 112 defensive rating, allowing the 4th fewest points, 3rd fewest rebounds, forcing the 4th most turnovers. You look at their last 15, allowing the second fewest rebounds to power forwards. I mean, they're at the 4th fewest rebounds in general, 3rd fewest in this last 6. And that's despite, having a really tough game against the Lakers where they gave up a ton of points. But still, Anthony Davis only 20 and 6 for what that's worth. Like, I just don't see Triple J, who I looked at his last 6 against the Pelicans at home, way under this number. I mean, it's a different situation in terms of usage rate, but like they have defended him well. He basically only has 1 spike game against them in the last like 4 seasons. So I trust them to do a pretty good job on him regardless of this usage.
Yeah, I'm with it. I've been looking for the right moments to fade Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. And yeah, I mean, obviously those last matchups were going to probably even tougher than the one that he's going to face tonight. But like, yeah, with Joval in there and all the points that you're talking about here, I'm absolutely no problem with continuing to fade Memphis's offense in whichever fashion you'd like to do it, even though he's going to continue to take the bulk of the shots. They just haven't been good looks either. So final bet here for me is going to be a Trae Young 10+ assist bet. Combine that parlayed with the money line for this Hawks team, which I think we both like. I don't know if Caruso's going to play. I'm not going to try to guess that at all. It's pretty important to this bet, but even if he doesn't play, I like it. If he does play, I like it because Caruso has forced the ball out of point guards' hands a ton and kept them from scoring to the tune of the fewest points per game allowed to point guards on the season for the Bulls. And then as far as the assists go, not bottom 5, bottom 10 for the entirety of the season in terms of allowing point guard assists. And that's the whole point of Caruso's defense, is funnel the ball out of his hands. Trey has gone over this in 3 of his last 4 versus Caruso and the Bulls. And I think a lot more than that is coming. We both like the Hawks. So, I mean, as far as the money line for the Hawks goes, you talked about that a bunch more in the best bets video as well, where you like the Hawks to win that game, and you like them to maybe combine that with the Cavs money line. But yeah, for the Hawks, like, they've actually been a much better team as of late in terms of actually winning and covering, beating some decent teams in there as well. As we know, the Suns are in there, the Warriors are in there on the road playing well. Some pretty nice wins there. The only losses actually were to the Mavs, who played completely out of their mind in terms of the straight up losses over the course of their last 8 games. So they've looked really good in that regard. For Trey, he's up at about 16 potential assists over his last 3, and I say that because Clint Capella has missed the last 3, and Onyeka Okongwu has been the dude down low for them for the entirety of that game. Plus a lot of Jalen Johnson continuing to go to the basket. That dude just stays getting rebounds. When Clint Capella is out, he's basically a double guy each night. And I would consider him as well in this game, but I do think that for the sake of taking, something that like I can rely upon a bit more, which is like Trey's going to have the ball in his hands, and Onyeka Okongwu is almost as good of a roller off of the screen as Clint Capella is. So has Jalen Johnson proven to be as well, as Trey has continued to creep over the 10 assists consistently. In the last 3, but also, over the course of the last roughly, let's see, I want to make sure I'm getting right, like basically like 7 of his last 10 or so for the 10 assists alone, and missing the 10.5 in there one time. He has gotten 10 assists in there. So I do like just dumbing it down a bit, taking the double for him. It's pretty beautiful odds on DraftKings, especially compared to elsewhere. If you want to take him to get 10 plus with the money line, it's plus 126. That's a really good number compared to about minus 105. You can't even get plus money on FanDuel, MGM either for this exact same bet. So there's still a good amount of value to be had there for him to get the 10 dimes and the win for this team. Like I said, the 16 potential assists might not make you feel that comfortable. I usually like it to be closer to not needing the 60% of your potential assists to turn into regular assists to feel comfortable about it. But it is Trey. All of these assists are coming outside, like inside the 3-point line. They're very rarely is he finding dudes out on the 3-point line, other than like Bogey, pretty much, who really at this point, when they're on the floor, it's either Sadiq Bey in the corner or Bogey on the wing that's available for Trey, and he knows that. But he's been going to that lob pass very, very consistently. And so I think the 10 plus assists will be a bet against this. Look, I mean, the Bulls have been stingy and good on defense, but the assists are there for point guards because of the way that they funnel things out of their hands above the break. So.
Yeah, and as I talked about in the best bets, they haven't been good on defense lately. They are allowing the 2nd most threes, the 8th most assists, and vulnerable in some areas that the Hawks can take advantage of. Yeah, including potentially spraying out for some threes, because they are a packet-in defense, are the Bulls, True. Right? So they're giving up plenty of attempts and a high percentage. No matter what, yeah, you like Trey with the ball in his hands. You like the fact that the Hawks, now that the trade deadline's passed and they stood pat, like there's a lot less distractions, right? Everybody knows their roles. Get back to it. I'm sure it's some internal discussions with Quinn Snyder about like, okay, here's how we slot in. We're slotting in around Trey. This is our team the rest of the way. Like, no more distractions about who might get moved. And let's just rotate around Trae Young. What a great point guard.
Yeah, it would be helpful if DeAndre Hunter is in there too, to give him another outlet, keep playing that D. But yeah, I would agree with all of that. And I also like the addition of Patty Mills. He's not probably going to play tonight, but that's a good little backup point guard for them to at least have another dude who can play Trae style ball, if you will. So that's all the time we have for you in the Play of Props. Continue to follow along, subscribe to that page, and check out the best bets that we also have up today and each and every day that we're bringing you these Play of Props. So until we see you next, happy betting.